Most people who struggle financially are not struggling because they spend too much on vacations or luxury items. They are struggling because of something far quieter, far more consistent, and far more invisible than that. There is a mechanism working against your wealth every single day. Not loudly, not dramatically, but steadily, reliably, and at a scale that most people never stop to calculate. It has a name. It is called inflation. And most people fundamentally misunderstand what it actually does to them. Inflation is not simply the reason your groceries cost more than they did 5 years ago. That is the surface. What inflation actually does, at its most consequential level, is silently reduce the purchasing power of every dollar you are not actively growing. Money sitting in a standard checking account, money held as cash, money parked in a savings account, earning less than the rate of inflation. That money is losing value every single day. Not visibly, not with any notification, just quietly, mathematically, continuously. Consider this. The average annual inflation rate over the past several decades has hovered between 2 and 4%. That means a dollar today will buy roughly 2 to 4% less next year than it buys right now. Over 10 years, at 3% annual inflation, $100,000 in purchasing power becomes worth approximately $74,000 in real terms, even if the number in your account never changes. You did nothing wrong. You lost nothing visibly. But $26,000 of real value quietly disappeared. You did not spend it. You did not lose it to a bad investment. You simply held it still in a world that never stops moving. And the world charged you for the stillness. Here is why this is so dangerous. Human psychology is wired to respond to visible losses far more strongly than invisible ones. If someone took $200 from your wallet, you would notice immediately. You would feel it. You would act. The alarm goes off. The response is immediate. The brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do: detect a threat, signal urgency, and prompt action. That system works perfectly when the loss is visible. But inflation does not take from your wallet. It takes from the purchasing power of what is already inside it. And it does so slowly enough that the loss never triggers the alarm systems your brain is designed to use. The wallet looks full. The brain stays quiet. The erosion continues. Behavioral economists call this money illusion, the tendency to think about money in nominal terms, meaning the number you see, rather than in real terms, meaning what that number can actually buy. Most people live almost entirely inside the nominal world. The real world operates underneath it, silently. When your salary increases by 3%, but inflation is running at 4%, you received a pay cut. But because the number went up, it does not feel like a pay cut. The nominal figure rises, the real purchasing power falls. And because only one of those things is visible, only one of them gets noticed. The illusion holds. And while the illusion holds, the erosion continues. This is not a failure of intelligence. It is a predictable feature of how human cognition processes numerical information. And it is one of the most quietly expensive cognitive tendencies a person can carry through a financial lifetime. Now consider the mathematics directly. Imagine two people. Both earn the same income. Both save the same amount each month, $500. Same discipline, same intention, same starting point. The only difference is what happens to the money after it is saved. The first person keeps that money in a checking account, earning essentially zero interest. The second person places that money in an account or instrument, earning a modest 5% annually, historically achievable through index funds or high-yield savings accounts over long periods of time. After 20 years, the first person has saved $120,000 in nominal terms. But adjusted for 3% annual inflation, the real purchasing power of that money is closer to $66,000. The second person, with the exact same $500 per month and a 5% return, has accumulated over $200,000 and significantly more in real purchasing power. Same income, same savings habit, entirely different financial outcome. The only variable was whether the money was growing faster than it was being eroded. That single variable, applied consistently over time, produced a difference measured not in percentages, but in life options. This is what the compounding gap looks like visually. Two lines beginning at the same point, one drifting flat, then gradually downward in real terms, the other curving steadily upward. The distance between them does not stay the same. It widens. Every year, quietly, the gap grows larger. $26,000 of purchasing power. Gone. Not stolen, not lost to a bad decision, simply eroded by the steady, silent, mathematical reality of holding money still in an environment where inflation never holds still. This is the system you are already inside, whether you chose to be or not. Inflation does not ask for your participation. It does not require your awareness. It operates continuously, and the question has never been whether it is affecting your wealth. The question is whether your financial behavior is accounting for that effect or quietly ignoring it. Awareness is the first variable that changes. Not income, not access to complex financial instruments, not a higher paying job or a sudden windfall. Simply the shift from operating inside the money illusion to understanding that the real number and the nominal number are not the same thing, and that the difference between them compounds over time. The people who build wealth steadily over time are not necessarily smarter, luckier, or higher earning than the people who do not. In many documented cases, the distinguishing factor is simply that they understood this one mechanism early enough to respond to it. And the people who did not spent decades working hard, saving consistently, and still arriving with less real wealth than the numbers in their accounts suggested they should have. The system does not pause while you figure this out. The inflation gear turns whether you are watching or not. The idle savings gear sits still beside it, not broken, not neglected by choice, simply unaware that stillness in a moving system is not the same as safety. This is why the question matters so much. Not, am I saving enough? But, is what I am saving growing faster than it is being eroded? Those are not the same question, and the person asking the second question is operating in a fundamentally different financial reality than the person asking only the first. That shift in the question is the shift in the understanding. And once the understanding changes, the decisions that follow tend to change with it. Not all at once, not perfectly, but directionally, structurally, and in ways that compound over time just as surely as the erosion does. The gap between an idle dollar and the inflation rate is not abstract. It is a number. It is measurable. It can be calculated for any given year, any given savings balance, any given time horizon. And once it is calculated, it is very difficult to unsee. Every dollar sitting still is making a decision. Not your decision, the system's decision. The system defaults to erosion. Intentional behavior is what changes the default. And intentional behavior begins with understanding what the default actually costs. A dollar held today is not the same dollar held 5 years from now, even if the number never changes. Time and inflation work together continuously, reducing the real value of static money in a process that is invisible, mathematical, and entirely indifferent to whether you understand it or not. This is not an opinion about investing philosophy or financial strategy. It is arithmetic. The purchasing power of an idle dollar decreases over time at a rate equal to the inflation rate. That is not a warning. It is not a prediction. It is a description of how the system already works. The goal is not to eliminate risk or achieve perfection. The goal is to close the gap, to ensure that the rate at which your savings grow is at least keeping pace with, and ideally exceeding, the rate at which inflation erodes them. Even a partial closure of that gap produces a meaningfully different outcome over the long term. Moving from idle money to growing money does not require becoming a sophisticated investor. It does not require understanding complex instruments or taking significant financial risks. It requires understanding that the bridge exists, and that not crossing it is itself a choice with a measurable cost. The silent wealth killer is not extravagance. It is not poor budgeting or lack of discipline. It is the gap between the rate at which your money sits still and the rate at which the world makes that stillness expensive. That gap is the mechanism. Understanding the mechanism is where the response begins. Not magic, not luck, not a secret available only to people with access to information you do not have. Just a clear, accurate understanding of how money behaves over time, and a set of decisions made consistently that align with that understanding rather than working against it. Close the gap, even partially, even imperfectly, even slowly, because the trajectory of a financial life is not determined by a single dramatic decision. It is determined by the quiet, compounding effect of understanding one fundamental truth early enough to act on it. The silent wealth killer only stays silent for as long as no one names it. Consider it named. If this video gave you a clearer picture of how money actually behaves over time, take a moment to like it. It helps more people find content that teaches real financial mechanics rather than shortcuts and hype. If you know someone who is working hard, saving consistently, and still not seeing the results they expected, share this with them. Because the gap between what people are told about money and what money actually does is wider than most people realize. And closing that gap starts with a conversation. And if you want to keep understanding the systems behind wealth, savings, investing, and the hidden mechanics that shape financial outcomes, subscribe, because that is exactly what this channel is built to deliver. One honest, well-researched video at a time.